Imagine being born without magic in a world where everything is done with magic. Today, we're going to see the story of Mash, a boy without magic but who makes up for it with his incredible strength, overcoming all challenges by beating everything and everyone up. It seems like Saitama's son was born in a world of magic. But, before we start, smash that like button and subscribe to give us a big help, alright? Let's go to the recap. The anime begins by introducing us to how the magical world works. By the way, right from the first scenes, we see many references to Harry Potter, like people flying on broomsticks, and the scenery looks very similar. As you can see, we notice that using magic is as natural for people as breathing. And in this world, the higher your magical ability, the higher your social status. However, in the depths of the forest surrounding the city, lives a boy who is completely outside this magical reality. His name is Mash, and even the animals are astonished by his physical training. Then we see his adoptive father, who claims to be 75 years old and unmoved by anything. But when he sees Mash breaking the door, the old man gets angry. He asks why on earth he broke the door, and Mash simply replies that he didn't know whether to push or pull. Mash feels sad and apologizes, saying he will fix it. His grandfather, seeing him so polite, calms down and forgives him. This will be a common theme in the anime, where Mash's grandfather always softens up when Mash behaves nicely. Later, while talking to his grandfather, Mash asks why he only does physical training. His grandfather thinks for a moment and says that Mash is different, as he can't use any magic unlike others. But he doesn't say anything to Mash, mentioning that maybe he'll tell him someday. He says he's going out for a bit and instructs Mash not to go to the city under any circumstances. Mash confirms and says he won't. As soon as his grandfather leaves, Mash runs off to the city. He takes a look around, and notices that everyone uses magic, but he doesn't pay much attention. Mash arrives at the shop where his favorite sweet, profiterole, is sold. He orders 7 and hands the coins to the seller. But as he hands them over, the coins are completely bent. Mash regrets, saying that due to his anxiety to buy his favorite sweet, he ended up crushing them. But he tells the guy not to worry since he'll fix them soon. Nonchalantly, he simply straightens the coins with his own hands. The merchant is obviously shocked to witness this and finds it very frightening. After buying and leaving, the cap that Mash was wearing is blown away by the wind. At that moment, everyone observes him and notices that he is different because he doesn't have the mark on his face like everyone else, which indicates that he doesn't have magic. After that, we're shown a guy who seems to be very important, and he receives a call informing him that there's a boy without a mark in the city. Mash nonchalantly walks away, enjoying his profiterole. As he passes by, everyone is staring at him, surprised. But suddenly, Mash bumps into a policeman and ends up staining his uniform with the sweet. The policeman, despite being on duty, is drinking and starts complaining to Mash. He asks what he's going to do to clean his uniform. Mash takes the uniform from him and rips it completely. The policeman is in shock. Mash says he's sorry and that he'll take the uniform to wash. At that moment, the important-looking guy appears and notices that Mash doesn't have the mark on his face. As the guy is about to approach Mash, his father takes him and runs away, apologizing for Mash. The blonde guy uses magic, and a kind of bird chases Mash and his father. When they arrive home, Mash receives a serious scolding. His father says he always tells him not to go to the city. Mash feels sad and apologizes. Again, his father softens up seeing him being good, saying he won't be angry anymore. But as punishment, Mash has to repeat the training he did that morning. Later, the blonde guy, along with other policemen, appears at their house. Meanwhile, Mash is training in the forest, and even the animals are impressed by his training. At the house, the policemen start beating up Mash's father and telling him that he knows he shouldn't take care of non-magic people, as those who are born without magic are eliminated in that world. Mash arrives and listens behind the door, seeing that his grandfather is being mistreated. After that, we're shown how he met Mash. Mash was abandoned, and the old man found him and ended up taking care of him as if he were his son. He says that even without blood ties, he considers him his true son. After that, Mash enters and delivers a punch to the first guy, and he grabs that chubby guy from the city and rips his uniform again, then gives him a series of consecutive normal slaps. Now, only the blonde guy is left. Mash looks at them and in a badass way, he says that if they don't give up, he'll send them all to hell. Then, their leader starts casting a spell that appears to be very powerful. But Mash stops the spell using just a simple slap. The policeman tries again with several spells. Mash easily deals with them, and at one point, he even juggles with them and plays soccer with the spells. Then, Mash takes his grandfather's wand. The blonde guy asks if he can use magic too, but unexpectedly, Mash uses the wand as a dart and throws it towards the policeman with incredible speed. Luckily for him, it just grazes him, but it ends up stuck in the stone wall of the house. The guy, seeing this, is astonished. Mash again tells him that if he lays a finger on his family again, he'll drag him to hell. The old man, like the policeman, is shocked. He says that it's true he trained him to defend himself, but he never expected him to reach this point. At that moment, the policeman starts laughing and says he has a proposal for them. If they don't want to be chased for the rest of their lives, Mash must enter the School of Magic and become the Divine Visionary, a title given to the best student of the school. He says that being the Divine Visionary means he was chosen by God, and society would be obliged to accept him even if he couldn't use magic. And the policeman says that, in exchange, he just wants the money and privileges that come with that title. Mash doesn't hesitate much and quickly accepts. He says he wants to live in peace with his father again, who gets emotional seeing him being good once more. On the next day, they arrive at the school, and Mash will go through the tests alongside hundreds of students. We're introduced to the examiner, who observes from above and finds it really odd to see a guy lifting weights at a magic school, but he decides not to care too much. After that, he appears in a dramatic fashion below. The students are impressed since he is well known and has mastered several high-level spells. He is happy to be recognized and starts talking. Then, he summons some desks and tables for them to take the exam. The students are impressed, but Mash asks if it wouldn't have been easier to have everything ready already. This makes the guy angry, but he comforts himself, saying that only 3% pass, and a clown like Mash will certainly fail. And then the exam begins. Everyone is desperate since the letters in the test are all jumbled up. The test is to disperse magical energy and make the letters stop moving so they can answer the questions. Mash gets irritated and ends up breaking his pen, telling the letters in a menacing way that it's annoying that they keep moving. Surprisingly, the letters get scared and align themselves. He hands in the test, and the examiner is astonished to find all the answers correct. Then we move on to the practical tests, where Mash always manages to use brute force to overcome them. And so, he passes test after test. The examiner gets angry seeing this and decides to step up his game. The next test is to cross a maze, but not just any maze. It has some traps inside. They have 30 minutes to reach the other side. When they start, a blonde girl approaches Mash and asks if she can go with him, as it would be much easier to progress with two people. Mash accepts and they move forward, but he notices that the girl is incredibly clueless and falls into several traps. Mash wonders if this is really faster than going alone. Mash decides to run, but the girl summons some handcuffs that restrain him. He asks her why she did that, and she reveals that she has her reasons. Mash asks what those reasons are. She says she doesn't want to say. Mash tells her that he has to pass the test and immediately breaks the handcuffs. Then, a monster appears and attacks the girl, but before she's hit, Mash appears and saves her. At that moment, the damn instructor starts smiling, saying there's not much time left, and Mash will surely be eliminated. But Mash takes the girl and starts going through all the walls until they reach the end of the maze. From above, the school director says that an interesting boy has appeared, and he's kind of excited. After that, the instructor reveals that he hired the girl to disrupt Mash, and since she was of no use, he'll have to use force to eliminate him from the selection. He begins to cast a spell and says that if Mash wants to continue, he'd better do something before he goes off base. Mash simply breaks his wand right there, and the guy doesn't understand a thing. After that, the school director appears and approves Mash's entry, and he goes for the last test, a kind of interview with the director and some members of the council. The director asks why he wants to enter there, and Mash responds that his reason is to live in peace with his family. Then the director gives Mash another test. He uses a spell that traps the soul of the most important person to the target inside a doll, and when that doll is stabbed, the person outside will lose consciousness. The director adds that it's not just that, if the doll is stabbed with his soul inside, he'll go off base. Mash tries to beat the trap, but it doesn't work, so he decides to simply place his hand under the blade and hold it, as a spell of that size can't be maintained for long. The old man is impressed and says that Mash uses his strength to help people, and that's a testament to his character, making him pass that test. Soon, the spell is dissipated, and his father's soul returns to his body. Some time later, a teacher begins to teach a lock-opening spell. She asks them to practice, and Mash simply breaks the padlock and tells the teacher he already did it. Obviously, she gets angry and starts scolding him, saying he should use magic. Later, Mash goes to his dorm room and meets his roommate. He introduces himself and takes the opportunity to introduce the names he put on each of his muscles. They talk a bit, and Mash encourages them to work hard together. And so, today's video comes to an end. Did you like it? If you made it here, comment Saitama so I know who's really staying until the end. Also, take this opportunity to subscribe and give a boost to our work.